Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Taal Hasak-Lowy, and I am the Executive Director of Friends of the Children Chicago. I am absolutely delighted that you've chosen to spend a half an hour with us this afternoon. First, a bit about Friends of the Children. We are a mentoring organization, but I like to say that we're a mentoring organization on steroids and actually a human rights organization. There's a few things that make us unique. First, it's who we serve. We intentionally identify the kindergartners born into the most challenging circumstances. We do outreach to build a relationship with that child's parent or caregiver so that they voluntarily enroll their child in their program. And then we commit to staying by that child's side for 12 and a half years, no matter what. We're involved in every facet of a child's life, at home, in school, and in the community. In what we do with children, we are not just glorified babysitters. Our professional mentors are there to ensure that every child feels emotionally and physically safe, what I call tending to their baseline humanitarian support. And once we know that they're doing well on that front, we help them with skill building, goal setting, and relationship building. We're part of a national network that's been around for more than 30 years that has great long-term outcomes and proven results. 92% of the kids that go through our program across the country go on to enroll in post-secondary education, enlist in the military, or enter full-time employment. And most importantly, our mentors are not volunteers. They are professional mentors. This is their full-time job. Each of our mentors works with a roster of only 8 children. And again, I said this is their full-time job. I want to share with you a quote from the Search Institute that said that after decades of forming hypotheses, conducting surveys, crafting and rewriting definitions, analyzing data, and writing journal articles, our researchers and practitioners have arrived at a surprisingly simple conclusion. Nothing has more impact in the life of a child than a positive relationship. And so the professional mentors that we hire, I like to say that they're unicorns. These are people who are committed, who are dedicating their work hours, their livelihood to serving children and families. And so it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce you all to Timothy Colar, one of our professional mentors. Timothy has been with us for 3 years. Tim, I'm wondering if you can just introduce yourself to us, tell us a little bit about your background and why you chose to become a professional mentor with Friends of the Children.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Timothy Colar, as Tom stated. I've been a mentor for about 3 years here. I was working in retail, and just kind of living life, paying my way through as all of us do. But I knew that I wanted to do something far more impactful. And I came across this job, and for all of the reasons that Tall just explained, like what we do, how we serve, the youth from kindergarten and the 12 and a half years, no matter what, checked every box that I have. And my time here just exceeded all of my expectations. It's like you are in the trenches, you are in the field with these kids, and it's just the most rewarding thing that you can do. Yeah, it's such a gift to be able to pour into the kids. I was blessed to be able to have a ton of mentors and resources like this available to me. So the opportunity to be able to share that and to pay it forward was like a no-brainer for me.
But we are so honored to have you on our team.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I'm going to be talking to Tim about one of the kids on his roster. We're going to call him Kellen. That's not his real name. For those of you that joined us at Friends Fest, I will share that video as well, but that's a little boy that just said that delightfulness is the word that describes Tim's time at spending time with him. But I want to remind you that Kellen and all of the children in our program are real human beings. And we're sharing with you his story and his struggles so that you can understand why it's important that people make it possible for Timothy to be in Kellen's life. but really to hold that with grace and dignity, that he's a real person and to be careful with his story. Um, so let's just start. Tim, can you just tell me a little bit about Kellen? You've been paired with him for about 3 years. Like, who is he just as a human being in this world?
He is just he's a very smart kid, like academically very bright. Not I think he's very imaginative. He's like really the essence of what a kid. Like he believes the world is just this beautiful place. And it is if you choose to view it that way. And so he loves basketball. He's a big basketball fan. He loves video games. He loves to play Roblox and Fortnite, and he finds a lot of friendships that way. Very social, like by far probably the most social kid I've ever. He can make a friend anywhere, and he loves to make friends. So oftentimes I have to corral him, like, "Hey man, we can't just walk up to everybody." We have to say, it's very social, and really caring. Like he, um, uh, um, about a year ago this time, I actually lost my mom, and he checks in on me constantly, like, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, Mother's Day." He's like, "You doing okay?" Like, I know it's Mother's Day, and so a very thoughtful kid, very kind, very emotionally aware. Like he can sense kind of like what you're feeling, and he'll try to meet you there.
I love that. I love that description of him. Um, so let's start with one of Kellen's struggles that you shared with me, um, is emotional regulation. So can you
Mhm.
explain just like what that looks like and what that struggle is for the words? The word regulation doesn't mean something to everyone. So can you just explain sort of
Mhm.
when it shows up, how it shows up?
Yeah. So, and the regulation is something that all of us at any age range have to navigate at different ages. So for him, regular being dysregulated for him, um, he can be easily triggered. He can take offense to things. He's very he struggles with security in himself. He's an only child, and so I think sometimes their relationship with other people, more like somebody like a big brother, sometimes it's a little bit threatening to him, and so he, like most kids, he wants to feel safe. So sometimes on an outing, things change, and like the week prior, I might be like, "This is the plan next week. We're going to play basketball. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to go to this restaurant or whatever." But sometimes, we have assessments that are due. So I'm like, hey, we got to pivot and we're going to do this reading assessment, or we got to, read this book. And that can kind of throw him for a loop. Like, I thought you said that we were going to do this or do that. And for him, his attitude, it affects his attitude. Like he can switch pretty quickly. Like he can be the most compliant, thoughtful kid, but then he'll turn on you in a minute. And it takes, he just kind of becomes very cynical, thinking like you're against him, like, oh, you're trying to make me have a terrible day, or like have a terrible time, and I have to kind of take steps back with him and say like, hey, like, this is important, and I think like what we talked about really with him, the biggest thing is he has very good parents, like, but they can be very vocal. And so I try to counteract that. I try not to be overly vocal with him. And so a lot of times I'm letting him explain his side of the story. Like he might, lash out, and it can result in like a tantrum for him with him walking away and like storming off. And so he's always within my sight. And so I say, if you need a minute, let's take a minute. And usually we reconvene after about, 5 to 10 minutes.
So let me just slow you down because you just said some really important things. So if things don't go his way,
Mm-hmm.
or if his feelings get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
or if he feels in an unsafe situation, he has a meltdown,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how and when you say that his parents, he lives with his mom and his stepdad, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you say that they're vocal. Would you mean
Mhm.
that they just sort of like they don't really let him speak his view and they yell at him a lot? Like what does that look
Yeah,
like?
yeah. So it's when you're dealing like with trauma and things like that, a lot of times what happens is like the age where people experience trauma emotionally, sometimes they get stuck at that age. And so with the parents, they live hard lives and they have their own trauma. And so his meltdowns are not much different from his parents, man. They also have meltdowns. And so
Right?
I think some of that behavior is just learned from them. And so the vocal part for them is more of just a lashing out, like you always doing this and you messing up, and it can be name calling. It can be, hey, you stupid, or like, why would you do that? That was dumb. And it can be a lot of accusations and like something we talked about, a lot of punishment without correction. And so a lot of what I try to do is reverse it. I try to punish him less and give him more correction. During those meltdowns, because he is prone to those meltdowns. But overheard phone conversations, or I've just seen in public, or like I'll tell his parents, like, hey, this happened on the outing, and he had a tough day, and it's just like, I told him about that. You shouldn't be doing it, and I was like, the emotions. Everybody has emotions. I'm never upset with him about displaying an emotion. It's about, I always explain to my kids that your emotions are like a bomb, and bombs are not precise instruments. They just affect the people around you. And so I'm like, we have to find a way to harness that power and aim it in the right direction. It has to come out, but where you putting it, that's how. You don't want to hurt the people that are around you. I'm often on the receiving end of a meltdown simply because I'm one of the closest people to him, not for any reason. It's just that I show up. And so if he melts down, I get the effects of it, but not out of that's what he wants. And the same is true for his parents. I'm like, they live hard lives, and I think they didn't have a mentor or somebody to teach them how to harness that energy and put it into something productive instead of just lashing out. So it's just a lot of his explosions to me. I mean, his meltdowns to me are more so like explosions. This has to happen, and you just kind of got to take the hit of it and then recalibrate after that.
Right. So thank you for saying that. His parents are wonderful people who are living the best lives they can under very, very hard circumstances.
Mm,
And right, it's intergenerational trauma. Like they
mm,
didn't get support. And so
mm,
Kellen is struggling as well.
mm,
Um, I still just want to stick with this for one more. So, like, because you shared an example with me recently when we were prepping for this call about
mm,
he had a little bit of a meltdown at a basketball game, but then like
mm,
how quickly he was able to recover. So can you talk
mm,
about the work that you've done with him over the last 3 years about what to do when he gets really frustrated or things don't go his way and sort of the
mm.
change that you've seen, like the maturation that you described to me, like how much he's matured, um,
Yeah.
based on some of the conversations that you guys have had?
Yeah, big time. So basketball is a big catalyst, because what I try to teach them about life and school and everything is the self accountability, understanding what you can do to change the outcome of a situation. Like, so basketball is a perfect example because it's competition. It's you against me, it's me against you, and you want to score, I want to stop you from scoring, or I want to score, you trying to stop me from scoring. So it's a great way to have those conversations, and it's a great way to kind of draw out those meltdowns and those emotions that are kind of boiling over. And so we were playing one-on-one, and he's getting older, and so I tell him, I say, every summer we play, I'm gonna play you harder than I played you the summer before, because you got to get better. And so he, over the past 2 summers, like he has matured so much. Like, it started out when I first met him, close to like 3 years ago. It was just a quit. It was just like, I can't do it. You too tall. You faster than me. Like, I don't know how to overcome this thing, so I'm just gonna quit. And I would, try to encourage him, hey, like, let's keep going, let's keep going. But for at that time, he wasn't able to overcome that. So the next summer comes around, and he tries a little bit harder, and he does quit. But then he's like, hey, okay, I want to finish the game. Like, let's go back and finish it. To now, um we play, and I play, and I tell him, say, man, you're getting better, so I have to play. Just because you're getting better, I got to play you harder. And so now it's he still gets very frustrated, but he plays through it. And I tell him how often I'm proud of him for that. I'm like, channel that energy. It's not that you shouldn't get frustrated. Again, I love basketball. When he scores on me, I get frustrated because I I want to, But the point is not to eradicate emotions. The point is to learn how to challenge, how to channel them into the right area. So channel it into what you're doing with the basketball, and say, hey, I'm gonna try hard on this one, and I'm gonna shoot the shot, or however you need to do it. But it's just been a great catalyst for many conversations just about life, and about how there are things out there. There are so many forces in the world that oppose you. And I give them the analogy all the time. Like, if I'm just standing still, there's nothing opposing me. But as soon as I take a step, there's force coming the opposite. So you create motion just by moving. And I'm like, it's that simple in life. There are things that are gonna come against you. Your own lineage and heritage and things like that are coming against you. You know, systemic things are coming against you, and we have to learn how to resist. And you learn to resist by training, by practicing, by doing it. You might fail here, we try again. And so basketball has been a great um, catalyst just for those opportunities to talk about some larger issues in life when it comes to emotional regulation and just like mental fortitude, just being, tough minded and resilient and resistant all in one container.
So just one last question before I pivot to talking about some school stuff. But
Mhm,
car time. So you have 8 boys on your
mhm,
roster.
mhm,
And Timothy, like all of the mentors in our program, pick up and drop off kids in their own personal vehicles.
mhm,
If we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't be able to serve almost all of the kids in our program because the parents and caregivers, for a variety of reasons, um, can't, won't, or don't bring their kids to places. But you told me like car time is really, really valuable time, which I
mhm,
knew with my own daughters when they were growing up
mhm,
as well. But can you talk about sort of how it starts, like what a conversation starts out like, and what type of conversations you're having with him in the car?
mhm. Yeah, yeah, our guy Tom is very cool. He lives um furthest from the clubhouse of all my youth. So our car rides with traffic and rush hour, we get the most time in the car. And so it varies. Sometimes it's like very cool. A lot of times the scenario would be, I pick him up in the morning and he probably have went to sleep maybe like 3 o'clock playing video games and he's cranky and like, what are we doing? And I say, oh, we got to go to the clubhouse and we're gonna do some lecture. I don't want to do like I don't and then like this is gonna be boring and he just got all of these things. And so, with that, I often, it's the morning. I'm like, he probably is cranky. He probably didn't go to sleep one time. So I'm like, we're just gonna have a silent drive. We're just gonna relax and drive. Um, and then usually at the end of the outing on the way home, I'll be like, hey, like this morning, like it seemed like, I was trying to have a conversation with you. It seems like you weren't really interested. And usually after, some relaxing activities, some food and some, just hanging out, he's always way more, he's regulated at that point. He like, oh, I was mad. A lot of times, like when you just listen to the kids, there are sometimes very legitimate reasons why they're upset. So a lot of times it was, my dad he took my game yesterday over a misunderstanding with me and one of my cousins. Like my cousin spent the night and he broke a lamp and it was his fault, but I got blamed, those types of things. And so when you listen to it, you can really get when I listen to what he's saying, a lot of times there is validity to it. I'm like, oh, I can see why that would actually make you upset. But I can admit, like earlier when I first met him, I was like just digging right away. Like we would get in the car and I'm like, well, you seem like you don't want to talk. Like, what's wrong? Like, what did I do? But it really is not about that. It's just like about within that, that 4 hour time frame. My goal is like, how can I make him feel as safe as possible? Because once he feels safe, then it's not much digging that has to happen. It's just a natural conversation. So, with him, and again, I tell him how proud of him I am. A lot of times it can be an apology. Like, hey, Mr. Tim, sometimes I don't even have to ask. Like, hey, I'm sorry about this morning. Like, I know I was like in an attitude. I just needed some space. He like, thank you for like letting me get that space. Um, and sometimes it's apologies from my end. Like, hey man, I was, a little quiet. Like I also have a life and things like that. And I was like, I could have followed up on that conversation a little bit better. So it's a real relationship because there's push and pull.
I love that. And it also just shows that like the length of the relationship is really
Yeah,
important, right? You've been consistently showing up in his
mhm,
life for over 3 years,
yeah,
and he knows that you're going to listen to him,
mhm,
that you're going to hear him and sort of see him for who he is, that
mhm,
he's safe with you. You're going to have a conversation with him and not belittle him or yell
mhm,
at him. I'd love to switch a little bit to talking about school. We know he's
mhm.
very, very bright.
Yes.
Kellen is just finished sixth or seventh grade,
Seventh grade. He's going
seventh
to
grade.
mhm,
Um, and he participated in debate. So in sixth grade, he started participating Model UN. Sorry, it's Model
mhm,
UN. It's sort of Model UN and debate.
mhm,
But he got kicked off the team last year,
mhm.
and you helped him get back onto the team. Can you talk a little bit about why that happened and what you did and what relationships you built outside of just working with Kellen to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so sixth grade year, he the way the program is set up, like you have to be academically eligible for the Model UN team, and you have to be behaviorally eligible for the team. So his academics were fine, but he struggled pretty bad sixth grade year with his behavior. He was getting into a lot of fights, talking back to teachers constantly, getting calls home, getting things of that nature. And so he ended up not being eligible. And so we talked about that sixth grade year. We talked about that like in depth. We had an outing, and just about I asked him to explain to me what happened. Like, why didn't you make the like? I know it's something you wanted to do, but now you're ineligible because of your behavior. Like, what could you have done different? Because a lot of it was like what the kids was talking, and I was, I
It's
was
everyone else's fault.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's everyone else's fault. So it goes back to that self accountability. I'm like, okay, the kids were talking, but were you over by the kids or were you at your desk? And he's like, well, I was by them. And I'm like, you see how if you could just separate, if I talk to him a lot about like just purpose and things like that. When you know what you want to do, you have to be aimed at that. Like everything that's not that thing is not a factor. Like I have to be behaviorally on point, and so anything that's going to threaten my behavior, I'm just going to do away with. So we talked about that pretty in depth. Seventh grade year comes around, and he gets to try out again. Um, and this year's a much different story. And part of that too is that over the course of visiting him in school, when I first started visiting him in school, I was like, I would talk to his homeroom teacher a lot. But then, we would walk down the hallways and he would point out oh, that's Miss A, that's Miss B, that's Miss C, like all these teachers. And so I began to just connect with every teacher, every, security guard in the school, everybody. I'm just talking to everybody. And it created more of a sense of like he knew, and I got these people's numbers. He knew that I had. I'm like I not right in front of him. So I'm like, hey, call me. Like if you need to call me, if he's having a hard time, call me. I can if I can stop by, I will. But I can at least talk to him on the phone. And again, I think he created a sense of comfort for him, not like a thing like, oh, if they tell me you're doing something wrong, I'm finna punch, I'm finna get you. That's not the case. I'm like, I just want to know so that we can talk about it, so I can hear you out. Because they say, with every story, there's your side, their side, and then there's the truth. So I'm like, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you have to say. And then I want to meet those two things in the middle.
Tim, I'm going to send, just because we're going to run out of time. These are
Mhm.
such good, there's so many things I want you to share, but
Mhm.
um, so he had the opportunity this year because you built relationship with the people that
Mhm.
run the Model UN,
Mhm.
because they knew that you cared, because they saw improvement on Kellen. He
Mhm.
was invited to go to the New York trip for Model UN.
Yes. Mhm.
His parents don't really value see the value in doing Model
Yeah.
UN. They're more
Yeah.
sports focused. But you made it happen for him to go to New
Mhm.
York. So can you talk about some of the things? Like there was 2 weeks there that I think you were seeing him almost every day.
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
type of things did you do to get him ready to go?
Yeah, I think just being invested, like talking to the teachers, like I had a list of supplies that was needed to make sure that it wasn't like a last minute thing. So he needed, the right attire, he needed a suitcase, he needed things for the flight. And so it was just kind of talking to him and talking to the teachers and going back and forth between that thing. Like, hey, do you got shoes for this? Do you have a suit jacket? Getting his hair cut and, taking him to get some just like toiletries and soaps and things like that. And so it was a lot of conversations just about again behavior. I'm like, hey, not just because you got invited, it doesn't mean that like you're untouchable now. Like the same standard is still in place. Like behavior matters a lot. And there were a few situations leading up to it where his eligibility was getting threatened because he started getting in trouble. But he was able to kind of like refocus and reframe. Like, hey, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to go to New York and have this really cool experience. And he was able to to really focus in on it, and he got solid for a couple of weeks. But yeah, it was a lot of just sacrifices, which is what you do for the kids. It's like, hey, if mom and dad can't do it, let me talk to Taal. Let me talk to my boss and let me see, like, hey, can we get this for him? Can we buy this? So it's a lot of advocating. And then the biggest part is like, it's just showing up. Like, if I show up, then I can know what's happening. Without that, I would have had no clue of what was needed. He might have missed it for this reason or that reason.
So you took him to buy the suits and the shoes, and you took him
Yeah,
to get a haircut, and you
yeah,
made sure that you got him the suitcase, so he had all of the things. And
mhm.
then you picked him up early that morning to take him to the bus. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I picked him up. Yeah, his parents, they actually was like, we can get him there, but I wanted to be there to see him off, and I just wanted to talk to him one more time, like, hey man, this is the opportunity. I'm, a grown man, and I haven't been to New York yet, so I'm like, this is just such a great opportunity, to go for free, to go with your classmates, to go with your school. So I picked him up, I took him, we talked, and I just told him how proud of him I was, and yeah, it was just such a cool time to be able to see him, get on the bus with his friends.
Tell me, so you talked about his maturity. We
Mm,
know that he's making improvements, but still
mm,
struggling with some meltdowns.
yeah.
What are just a few things you're still working on with Kellen right now? And what are some
Mm,
things that you're sort of like goals that he set for himself or that you're working to look to build
mm.
with him over the next 6 months or so?
Yeah, I think confidence within himself. I think that he can be very like appeasing to people because he desperately wants those deep connections, those friendships. But for him, often that's him giving pouring out way more than what is like a natural amount, like doing anything that people tell you to do to get them to like you. And I just tell him, he has such a good heart. And I'm like, I'm not a cynical person at all. But I'm like, in this world, people will take advantage of. They will see how kind-hearted you are, and they will use it up for their benefit, and then they will leave you to the side. And so, like, never stop loving people, but don't do it at the expense of yourself. Like, don't just do away with yourself. And so, we talk a lot about confidence. We read. I'm blanking on the name of the book that we read. It'll come back to me,
Will
but
you
we
write a book to him about building up confidence?
Yeah, it was a book by an athlete that was just talking about like just like the journey that it takes to get to like the pinnacle of like who you're trying to be. But yeah, just like that self-confidence. I think that's the big thing that I see in him that I try to work on. As far as him, he wants to learn how to play piano, and I play piano, so we've been learning picking songs and like learning them over the summer. That's our goal this year. Um, so yeah, I think the self-confidence is the biggest thing that I'm working on with him. I think it'll go a long way for him and even keep him out of a lot of trouble. Like you won't feel the need to go be with this crowd of people because you're like, oh well, that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. But I know that I'm planted where I am. So that's what we work on a lot.
Thank you. So our professional mentors, again, are not glorified babysitting. They're not just hanging out with kids just to ensure that they're having a good time. They're really helping them build skills, right? So the first thing our mentors are showing up as a safe, consistent, nurturing relationship. And from there, they help them with emotional regulation, right? To help them stay emotionally safe and concerned. And when they see that a child is struggling, they're going to help them build those skills so that they don't have meltdowns when things upset them. You heard Timothy also reference that he worked with him on literacy development. That's something that we work on with all of our children. And all of our kids are always working towards personal goals so that they can learn that they want to set their mind towards something, work hard towards it, and then accomplish it. So they have a sense of agency and self determination. Kellen is just one of over 130 kids that are currently in our program. We'll have 152 kids in our program by the end of this summer. Uh, thank you all so much for spending this half hour with us. We just wanted to whet your appetite and hope that you'll stay in conversation with us. We will be sharing in follow up to this call a video of a conversation between Tim and Kellen just about their relationship together that's truly incredible. We will be staying on the call for a few more minutes. We promised you all a half hour, so feel free to leave. But if anyone has questions and want to stay on the call, we will be happy to stay on for a few minutes. Thank you all so much for being here today.